This is Tom Biernacki, and today this is an updated super version of my 2 million plus view Magnesium Secrets video. I'm going over all the stuff I was missing in the previous ones, what the best foods are, what the big mistakes are, what the big secrets are, what the problem with supplements are, what the problem is with measuring your blood levels. We're going over all that, the new studies, and we're starting now. Historically, in our diets and the water supplies, we had a ton of magnesium, but now 66+% of people are deficient. It's missing in our food supply. It's missing in our water supply. It's really depleted. Blood tests only measure 1% of magnesium levels. People are taking bad magnesiums. So for example, the most common one, magnesium oxide, is not absorbed in your bloodstream. So we're going to go over all of these and review what you should be taking and how you should be correcting your diet. As a foot and ankle surgeon, I've had to amputate a lot of feet, and I see a lot of people with health issues. I have a biochemistry master's degree, and my wonderful wife is a dietitian, so she proofreads all this, and I'm a medical director at a few different clinics. I see this stuff every day. This is not just theoretical for me, and I care about you guys. There's a reason I make these videos and take the YouTube abuse. I want to see this stuff work for people, and I really get a lot of pleasure seeing in the comments how it helped people. So help me with the likes, the thumbs up, and tell me the criticisms. Tell me what I could be doing better. Background is 65+% of people are not getting enough magnesium. 30 to 40% of the magnesium in our diets is not absorbed. And with processed diets, factory-made foods, food that's raised in cages and not in farms, most of the foods have depleted magnesium. And historically, we used to get it in one specific way that I'll review with you at the end. Spoiler alert, it's water. But now magnesium's completely filtered out of our water. So our magnesium rates have plummeted. The deficiencies are very high, and what makes it worse is there's no easy way to measure these magnesium deficiencies. And I'm gonna go over the tests because blood tests measure about 5% of our overall body magnesium levels. So even if your blood tests are normal, there's a lot of people that say that does not mean it's a normal level. Our vegetables, our food has decreased over the last 100 years to about 10 to 20% of what it is in certain foods. And for this reason, people are deficient. This is a myth. Magnesium does not cure all diseases. And this is not what this video is trying to claim. The reality is though, magnesium is an essential mineral that's present in about 600 plus enzymes and processes in our body. It is 100% critical in adequate levels for good overall health, well-being, but it is not a cure-all for advanced diseases like cancer or anything like that. So that's not the claim trying to be made in these videos. Magnesium is an element on the periodic table. It is an element, not a vitamin. It is just one element. The role of magnesium is it's a cofactor or an enzyme, as I mentioned, in a lot of different enzymes. It's involved in protein synthesis, muscle function, bone growth, blood pressure, glucose, normal heart function, heart rhythm, in all these things. It's also important in chronic pain. So my patients with chronic pain, I have them start up on magnesium and make sure their levels are not deficient. Bone formation, energy production, peripheral neuropathy, nerve function, heart defects, certain things like AFib, congestive heart failure, other issues, leg cramps, relaxing, sleep, calm, inflammation, all of these things. There's studies all over. If you go on PubMed.com, you will see it's present in all of these. So while it's not a cure-all, it's in a lot of stuff. And I have another great video about magnesium and how it can help with your sleep and your chronic pain. Because when I have surgery patients and chronic pain, sometimes getting them on magnesium, patients report that they're feeling a lot better. There's something called the synapse. When two nerves touch, they release a bubble of a chemical messenger out one end, and it goes to a receptor on the other end, activating that nerve to send a signal somewhere else. Nerves that regulate pain release something called glutamate, and it goes and attaches to an NMDA receptor, which transmits pain. When NDMA is activated, calcium comes into that cell and that nerve to create a signal. In chronic pain, basically there's constant pain. It's an overactive pathway. Now there's things to break up that pathway like ketamine, but ketamine is potentially a dangerous drug with some severe side effects, so that might not be the best option. But there's something called an antagonist. And magnesium is that antagonist. It can block those NDMA receptors, essentially helping with that pain feedback. So that's the theory. It's pretty complicated, but that's kind of the rough thought thus far. So magnesium is an antagonist, so it blocks the NDMA receptors, and it also works on pain in other ways. There's some studies that show that it can help with sleep. So specifically, there was a study with 9 clinical trials. 3 were for neuropathy, 3 were for migraine, 2 were for chronic regional pain syndrome, and 1 was for migraine. Neuropathy, migraines, chronic regional pain syndrome, back pain with neuropathy. Basically, magnesium was shown to stop this pain cascade and improve symptoms. There was also a study that showed that low magnesium is associated with poor sleep. And another study showed that improving that magnesium deficit can help sleep. And we already know that poor sleep is associated with pain perception. There was also a 6-week study that showed magnesium supplementation in those deficient did help with people's moods. There was also a 12-week study with 600 milligrams of magnesium in those deficient that helped with migraines. And there was a series of 25 studies that basically looked back at magnesium, and it did help with sugar absorption and insulin sensitivity. So these on the surface sound amazing, but there's some concerns that these studies aren't overwhelming. And guess what? I wrote a book about all these subjects: chronic pain, nerve pain. If that could help you, check it out, because I worked really hard on it. Our whole body has up to 26 grams of magnesium. Approximately 60% is stored in bone, 39% is inside our cells, not in our blood, and just 1% is found in free or ionized form in the blood vessels. So we're measuring just 1% of our total body's magnesium. A myth is, can blood levels measure body magnesium? Some people say yes, but most people, I think, would admit that measuring just 1% of the total level is not a true test, even though there is some debate. There are some research techniques that allow for whole body magnesium assessments. And these are, number 1, magnesium load test. This involves taking a high dose of magnesium through an IV and seeing how much comes out in your urine over a specific time. Is this a perfect test? It's a pretty complicated test that's pretty advanced. Then there's the magnesium isotope dilution test. Basically, you have radio-labeled magnesium that gets put into your body, and you can use different types of imaging to measure that, or seeing how much comes out in your urine. Is that something you want to do? It's not necessarily something I want to do. So rather than measuring it, if it's safe and cost-effective to take magnesium, is that probably the best way? The tough part with medicine right now is there's tests for everything and there's opinions for everything, but most patients I run into have to wait months to even get in to see me or their primary care doctor. The system is not working correctly. People don't get proper tests. They can't get their vitamin tests. Really, unfortunately, most people have to rely on themselves to take care of themselves. And that's the way it's always been. And that's why we make videos like this, to give people additional resources to make a better decision. Rather than getting an expensive test, realistically, if it's cost effective and relatively safe to take magnesium in the required amounts, I just focus on doing that and see whether you feel better or not. Most people in the comments actually let us know, hey, I started doing that and I feel a lot better in the areas that were mentioned in these studies. In general, there's a lot of great online labs that will do this for a reasonable fee. It's not the best for magnesium, but it can test a lot of other vitamin levels so you can keep up with it. Something to consider. Check out my video about that below where I go over these in detail. Here's the dosage. For a man per day, you want to get about 420 milligrams per day. For a woman, you want to get about 300 milligrams per day. That being said, that's just an average. If you're a really tall woman or a really short man, that could differ. I'm not going to get into kids dosing because under 18, I don't deal with kids. For an overdose, the Office of Dietary Supplements notes Too much magnesium from food does not pose a serious health risk for individuals because the kidneys and the GI tract can eliminate magnesium. That's their quote, not mine. I'm not telling you to gorge on unlimited magnesium, but high doses of magnesium usually result in diarrhea or abdominal cramping, and your body excretes it that way. Hypermagnesemia is very rare unless there's kidney issues. Unless you have a severe problem with kidneys or on some type of medications that prevent you from having diarrhea, you're probably not going to have an issue. A myth is, and this is sourced from a research study, is if you have kidney problems, should you avoid magnesium supplements? The answer is no. Even with doctor supervision, the occasional check, it's still recommended that people with kidney issues still take magnesium supplements, but here's where I defer to checking with your own doctor because anything could happen to anybody. This video is not meant to give you nutritional or medical advice. Always check with your doctor, even though this is meant to be educational. Is it possible to overdose? I read a great book called The Magnesium Miracle. Dr. Carolyn Dean, MD. She's fantastic. I love the books. Most people aren't going to read it because it's like 16 hours of just magnesium studies. You know, even me, I love this topic, but I could barely make it through the end of this book because it's just so much about magnesium. We get it. In like the first half hour, you've already made a great case. And that's why I make this shorter video. Her points are, looking into the studies, are severe kidney disease, myasthenia gravis, extremely slow heart rate, and bowel obstruction. So those 4 things are kind of the big issues. Those 4 people, you want to check with your doctor and potentially avoid magnesium. There are very few reports on PubMed.com of toxicity, and those are usually IV magnesium, so that's like magnesium sulfate, or people who fall asleep in like magnesium salt baths. So magnesium chloride, which is found in Epsom salts, can go through your skin. So if you fall asleep, that could flood your whole body with magnesium. Short of those types of overloads, getting IV or falling asleep in pure magnesium, you're probably going to be okay for most people. But nothing in this world is 100%. A meteor could hit both of us right now. The biggest side effect is if you take too much magnesium, it'll give you diarrhea. You're going to have to run to the toilet, especially magnesium citrate. Specific side effects are diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, tiredness, muscle weakness, heart conduction defects, and possible cardiac arrest with the severe extreme amounts, but don't go too crazy. Magnesium foods. One myth is you can get enough magnesium from diets alone, so supplements are unnecessary. The reality is the deficiency is extremely high in America and around the world. Food is processed, we're eating more sugar than ever, we're eating less natural food than ever. Our farming practices have significantly less magnesium than they once did. I was reading an article this morning how the original apple 100 years ago had like 1/8 the sugar than today's modern supercharged apple. That's saying from 100 years ago, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Maybe that's different now, you know, because an apple is more like a chocolate bar. The reality is, and this is studies, not my opinion, that most people don't get enough from food. We used to get enough from water, but not anymore. Food sources are leafy green. 1 cup of cooked spinach is about 100 milligrams. If you're an adult male, that's about 1/3. But who eats a full cup of cooked spinach? If you eat raw spinach, that's more like 5 cups because that cooked spinach shrinks down. You're gonna have to eat a whole tub of one of those big Costco tubs of spinach to get enough magnesium. Kale, only 20 milligrams per cup. Nuts and seeds, almonds, you have to eat 25 almonds, which is a ton of calories, for 70 milligrams of magnesium. Pumpkin seeds, eating a ton of those, 85 seeds gives you 160 milligrams, and these are the top magnesium foods. Black beans, 1 full cup gives you 1/4 your daily dose. Same with lentils, chickpeas, whole grains, oats, fish. Did you know if you eat a serving size of salmon, which is a superfood, which is phenomenal, and check out our best and worst fish videos below, that only gives you about 30 milligrams for fish. Avocados. 1 full avocado only gives you 50 milligrams of magnesium. Dark chocolate. Most people are not eating 85% dark chocolate, but say you had an 85% dark chocolate bar. 28 grams gives you 64 milligrams. You're gonna have to eat like 3 or 4 bars of 85% dark chocolate. And I challenge the viewer, if somebody can do that, and let me know in that comments if you're doing that daily, then you're getting enough magnesium. And not just that, but you have to consider that your stomach loses 30 to 40% of that magnesium. So you're losing it anyway. So you have to pretty much round up by 1/3. To meet your daily requirement, I mentioned you gotta get 400 milligrams, which most people are not doing. Thus, supplements are needed. And as a result, I take a supplement every day. Not all supplements are created equally. Different amounts have different absorption rates. So magnesium oxide is actually the most searched and the most popular. Magnesium oxide, that is the most poorly absorbed. The ones that are not the best are magnesium oxide, magnesium hydroxide, magnesium carbonate, magnesium sulfate. Those ones are known for poor absorption. Those are kind of like your antacids, your milk of magnesias, those kinds of things. Even though they have magnesium on the bottle, you're not absorbing that magnesium in high amounts. Magnesium oxide is the most popular one, so I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on it. While it does have some benefits, it's not completely worthless. It is considered to be less effective than all the other ones I'm gonna talk about. Magnesium oxide has a very high concentration of magnesium per content, but it has low absorption rates and it's less soluble in water. That being said, there are some studies that taking magnesium oxide is better than nothing. So as a summary, 66% of people don't get enough. We don't absorb 30 to 40% of it, and 80% is lost in our diet. The rest is found in chlorophyll, which is every plant product. These are common options that are meant to be laxatives. So magnesium oxide is very common. It's meant to loosen your stool, not to give you magnesium. Same with hydroxide, that's milk of magnesia, just to loosen the stool. Magnesium carbonate, so these are antacids. You don't actually absorb these. And magnesium sulfate, same thing. It's a laxative. You're not meant to absorb these. So don't take these. They're not beneficial in terms of acquiring magnesium. Here's the good ones, and I'm gonna go over these in the order that I like it. Number one, so again, Carolyn Dean, Magnesium Miracle. She makes a huge case for magnesium chloride. Studies are not overwhelming here because number one, it's probably the most cost-effective one, and it's found in all the topical creams. So magnesium chloride for me, I'm gonna put that top of the list. That's the one I personally take. It's used as both a cream that you can put on your skin, it can absorb. It can be used in Epsom salts and absorb through your skin. You can put it in a powder in your water and drink it. So it's available in various forms: capsules, tablets, powders, liquid solutions. That's the Magnesium Miracle book. It makes the case for magnesium chloride, but it's simple. I saw a 4-pound bag for $20. People hit me up in the comment that all these supplements are too expensive. 4 pounds. If you only need a few hundred milligrams, and you're taking a 4-pound bag for $20, that's a lot of magnesium that's gonna last a long time. I know personally, I buy one of those bags and I put it in little baggies and share it to all my family members who need it. I can't think of the last time I've had to replenish my supply because it's just so much, and there's enough for $20. I don't know where people are overpaying, but that's my story. That's how I'm getting it. Magnesium chloride has good bioavailability, means it's easily absorbed. It allows for efficient delivery because it's a simple base component. And compared to other forms of magnesium, like magnesium oxide, it has very high absorption rates, very soluble in water, and aids the digestive system. Magnesium chloride is also available in a topical application. You can put it on a cream at night, and studies do show it helps with sleep, it helps with depression, with headaches. So I have a lot of friends and family who put it basically on their body and it helps with their sleep. There's a lot of benefits to that magnesium. So many benefits to magnesium. Another one is magnesium citrate. Easily absorbed, good for headaches and calming, but too much can give you diarrhea. For a lot of people, that's a good thing. You want loose stool. So for example, I'm not gonna mention, but I have an older family member, they take it and it helps them stay regular. So the Journal of Parental and Enteral Nutrition compared magnesium citrate and found that it was much better than magnesium oxide and other types of magnesium. Another one is magnesium glycinate. This is also known as bisglycinate or glycinate. These are basically the same. It's like magnesium citrate, except it doesn't have the laxative effect. It is highly bioavailable. It's well studied. So the Journal of American College of Nutrition compared magnesium glycinate and found it more bioavailable. Other ones are magnesium L-threonate. This is good for brain and cognitive function, can be more expensive. This is one that's well studied now, well absorbed. Another one is magnesium orate. This is orotic acid combined with magnesium. A study published in the Journal of Cardiovascular Therapy for drugs showed that there was improved exercise tolerance and reduced heart attacks in patients with heart attacks and heart disease. Another one is magnesium taurate. This is a combination of the magnesium and amino acid taurine. Specifically, studies are limited, but it's shown to have some good effects in absorption. Another one is magnesium malate. That's malic acid. Journal of Pain and Relief found that magnesium malate helped with fibromyalgia, including pain and tenderness. So that's a good combo. Magnesium sulfate's used by IV by doctors when somebody's significantly low. And that's really the major types. There's also calm. There are mixtures like calm. They use a bunch of these. It's a little bit more expensive. If you want to buy calm, it includes a lot of these, but it's more expensive. I see a lot of people basically searching calm magnesium. It's a great option. So magnesium comes in a million different forms and formularies. Essentially, I prefer taking the powders rather than the pills because the pills don't give you a ton. But magnesium citrate, I like it for loose stools. Magnesium chloride is probably my favorite, but citrate close number 2. I prefer it in the powder. It's good for stool. It's good for headaches, good to calm down. Magnesium glycinate is like citrate. It's the same name as bisglycinate. It avoids the stools. So if you're getting diarrhea, maybe go with the bisglycinate or glycinate. Magnesium threonate. This has been shown more for cognitive function, but it can be more expensive. Same with magnesium orotate, more for energy, more for athletes. Again, how valid are these claims? I don't think they're overly valid. Magnesium taurate, same thing. It's recommended for diabetics for a couple different factors. But again, is it worth getting that extra money? I'm not so sure. Magnesium malate, same thing for fibromyalgia. It's an anti-inflammatory, but how different is it? Who knows? Now, the beauty of magnesium is it's in so many enzymes, helps with sleep, energy production, diabetes, heart issues. Why isn't everybody taking it if you can buy 4 pounds for $20? Well, most people don't know about it and there's not a lot of money to be made. And here's the big secret. So coming down to the big secret, I talked about how it's low in our food supply, but here's studies actually proving it. They did a study in Israel that basically desalinated water, so that means water without magnesium, versus areas that still have magnesium in there. Places that still had magnesium in their water had significantly improved heart health by a large amount. We're talking like a year longer lifespan between the two different areas. And acute heart attacks were decreased. Dementia was also studied, not much change through dementia. And they also looked at diabetes, not a ton of change with diabetes. That was in 2017, the April 15th issue. And that was a study that I believe is pretty groundbreaking. Another one is seawater desalination and serum magnesium concentrations. Another study was drinking water magnesium and cardiovascular mortality in Denmark. This was a study that looked from 2005 to 2016, and they looked at the same thing. Large scale heart attack, heart issues. They looked at over 4 million people for almost 15 years, and magnesium in the drinking water significantly helped heart issues and heart problems and conduction defects. This was a lot. And even when people had heart attacks, they had a lower chance of dying from that heart attack. Another study in Denmark, again, looked at magnesium in drinking water and atrial fibrillation, and they looked at it from 2002 to 2015. Drinking water that contains magnesium could potentially prevent 4.5 million heart attacks and strokes per year worldwide. Just watching this video, I'm not trying to take all the credit, but if everybody had the proper amount of magnesium, if you extrapolated that towards the world, they found that almost 5 million people would have less strokes and heart attacks around the world. Now, granted, there's a ton of people on the world, so is that a huge number? It is if it's you or a family member. It's something worth taking. And not just that, but it's part of 600 other enzymes. And following up on cheap cures, for COVID-19, low magnesium levels significantly correlated with infections and infection severity. In this hospital study, it showed that people who had low magnesium had longer hospital stays, higher death rates, and more complications overall. So make sure to get your magnesium. It's dirt cheap and it's easy. It's safe. Big secret number 2 is historically we used to drink a ton of this water, but now the magnesium is removed. It's not in our supply anymore, and it's not in our food. That's the big mistake. And the next secret is testing. Studies show that ionized blood testing and blood testing check just 1% of our total body levels. There are whole body tests, but is this practical to perform? No. But don't just rely on a test, because that might not tell the whole story. We're not getting enough in food. That's just the bottom line. It's hard to get in food. It's taken out of our drinking water. The deck is stacked against you. There are a lot of great supplements. These are not my supplements. I'm not trying to sell you this. I personally take magnesium chloride. The creams work really well. The baths work really well. You can put it in your water. I have a lot of family members take it. We have a lot of stories throughout our family where people have had good responses. You tell me yours in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. Send this to other people. Share this with family members who need it. And thank you for watching. These videos might help as well.